Is Throne of Liberty going to be New World but better? The answer is no, it's not going to be New World. There is one main similarity, but it might end up being better. That question is hard to say right now. I do think some New World players will at least try Throne of Liberty. And I want to let you guys know that I have a YouTube channel that is basically dedicated to the game in the same way that this one is dedicated to New World. So I would be deeply honored if you're interested in that game that you subscribe to this channel on the screen. Don't worry, New World is not going anywhere. I'm still a fan. So the main similarity that I was talking about is simple. In New World, you don't have a class system. In Throne of Liberty, you don't have a class system. In both games, you're going to pick 2 weapons and that effectively makes up your class, and you can freely swap between these weapons. That's a system that some people don't like. Personally, I really like it as an idea, and I hope Throne of Liberty managed to pull it off quite nicely. But then there are obviously dissimilarities, is that a word? There are obviously differences between the two. Throne of Liberty, for example, is looking like it's going to be a tab target game, or at best case when it comes to action that it will be a soft lock and you'll be able to do like AoEs. That's obviously a massive departure from New World, and the reason that I mainly play New World is because of its combat. So for me personally, New World is not going anywhere because the combat is just so interesting for me that I really like it. Yes, I'm not calling New World's combat perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I really like it in a concept and I really like it in practice, barring some major problems. And I think for a lot of other people, the combat is make or break. Now, at one point, I think that I said I was done with tab targeting games, but having played New World for a while now, I actually think I have room in my life for maybe a tab target MMO and an action-based MMO like New World. Do I think Throne of Liberty will be the next big MMO that everybody's playing for like a decade, like World of Warcraft or something like that? I honestly don't know about that. I would doubt it, but it's possible. Even though nothing has been confirmed, one difference is very likely going to be the monetization. New World has no pay to win whatsoever, beyond cosmetics, and some people do call that pay to win. Personally, I don't really. However, Throne of Liberty is being made by NCSoft, and simply they have a reputation for negative monetization. Now, while the developers have said they're going to steer away from pay to win as much as they can, in one interview they did say that those who have a lot of time to play and pay will have an advantage. That to me sounds like pay to win. So there is that caveat as well. Gameplay wise, it sounds like Throne of Liberty is going to concentrate purely on the open world. There are no instances apparently. I don't know if that means there'll be no battlegrounds or anything like that. That for me is yet to be determined. The amount of information about this game isn't that high at the moment. Even with the director's preview that was released yesterday, it didn't actually give us that much of an insight into the game. Throne of Liberty is scheduled for the first half of 2023, but do we have any indications that that's actually going to happen? Not really. There's no beta announcement or anything like that yet. The timing of that release could be very important. I think New World is probably going to have an issue with play numbers for the next 6 months practically. Whilst I do think we'll see little bumps with leaderboards, gear set storage and that kind of thing, I think New World's next proper bump is probably when we get the PvE raid, and that's when things will really truly kick off on New World again. If Throne of Liberty manages to release in that down cycle, then I can imagine a lot of current New World players or New World players who have just stopped playing will definitely give it a try. Visually, Throne of Liberty, in my opinion, is looking pretty damn stunning. It's running on the Unreal 4 engine, but it is very pretty even though it's not in the most modern Unreal 5.1. One advantage it might have though will be server sizes. In interviews, the developers have stated that whilst it's not yet been formalized, they're aiming for maybe somewhere around 5,000 players. That's obviously double what New World currently produces. The PvP is sort of radically different but also similar in a way. It doesn't sound like Throne of Liberty will actually have a flaggable system. It seems like they have now changed to effectively most areas being safe, but when there's a raid or a PvP event, that area becomes PvP flagged and you're able to just kill people, right? They said that there's no time where you should basically be surprised by PvP. Now, for some hardcore PvPers, you'll be put off by that completely, but I think if you really truly want a PvX game, having people griefing people in the open world like all the time is not really going to get the audience that you require. The PvEers generally typically wouldn't join into that. On the PvP front, there is going to be sieges in Throne of Liberty. The number of players looks far higher than say 50 versus 50. There's no confirmed numbers, but I would be surprised if it's not at least 100 versus 100, if not more. There are these sort of like stones in the open world called possession stones in Throne of Liberty. That seems to be the central point that players will fight around. And of course you'll want a big guild killing other big guilds, and you'll have to pay attention to strategy and stuff like that. But as I said, there's so little information at the moment. We know a handful of weapons, but we don't know if there's a healing staff, for example. We don't know if there is a Holy Trinity or it's literally just melee, DPS, tank, and range DPS. We just simply don't know. They do say that there's going to be a strong focus on the story, and the cutscenes that they've shown off, I have to say, look visually very, very good. The character creator looks like a character creator from a modern MMO, if I'm honest, as opposed to New World. You can actually import a picture and the game itself will just make the character for you. It's reminiscent of sort of like BDO. Doesn't look quite as good as Ashes of Creations, but then again, this game is probably coming out in 2023. Ashes of Creation could very easily be 2025, if not further afield. The game to me actually sort of feels a little bit like a mix between New World and Ashes of Creation. Yeah, it doesn't have the node system or what have you from Ashes of Creation, but I just sort of get that vibe and I don't quite know why. I think they were going to have a corruption PvP system, but they seem to have removed that for now. So in reality, maybe it's nothing like Ashes of Creation. It just sort of gives me that vibe. And then the weapon system being very similar to New World, that's an obvious comparison we can make. I'm not going to go through everything that we know about Throne of Liberty. If you want that, then do check out my other YouTube channel. But there's a very good chance that I think a lot of New World players, both current and past, will at least check out Throne of Liberty. Several of us will probably be a little bit disappointed by the combat. I'm not really into tab targeting games. I think I can handle it, but it's just not like my chosen preference, if you will. And really, they're the two big questions for me. It's going to be how like good does the combat feel and how bad is the monetization. If they actually nail both of those, then Throne of Liberty is looking like a very, very exciting MMO that should be coming out in 2023. And as I alluded to earlier, if it manages to come out before New World gets its raids, there's a very good chance that it's releasing into a very good window. People are generally desperate for a good MMO, so we'll cling to sort of any potential out there, right? It's way too early to say if Throne of Liberty will be better than New World. We can look at the systems and say if you're interested or not, but the proof will ultimately be in the pudding. Personally, I'm happy to wait until I can taste that pudding. I'll be making that content on that YouTube channel because I'm interested in it. But I will keep making New World content because I genuinely enjoy New World. I still think the combat is amazing, mostly, and I still enjoy PvP, mostly. And I do think that New World's potential is actually very, very high. I think Throne of Liberty's potential is probably a little bit lower, but it might start off being a little bit better than New World did, if that makes any kind of sense to anybody, which I'm not sure it does. Let me know your thoughts. Are you interested in Throne of Liberty? Will you check it out? Will you actually try it? I know that the main games that people are interested in are simply Ashes of Creation and Riot's MMO. But the reality is, guys, those games could be many years away. Throne of Liberty could be next year, could be within the next 6 months, and it could be good. I'm trying to err on the side of optimism, but we'll see what we end up with. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to support this channel, then do consider becoming a YouTube member. I am still going to be doing New World through and through. Don't worry, nothing's changing here. And if you don't want to do that, do consider giving me a sneaky follow over on the old Twitch. What I hope you definitely do is have a most beautiful day. The link to the YouTube channel will be in the description. Goodbye.